My lieutenants and I will scout ahead to prepare the attack. Join us when you're ready. Go, go.
For players that prefer to just enjoy the story of the game, we do have an option in the difficulty menu called the story mode, and it's really just adjusting the difficulty of the combat so you really can focus on enjoying the cinematics and the story behind the characters without worrying about dying and respawning multiple times. For story mode in the difficulty level, there is a big difference with the rest of the selections. The difference in the difficulty level is definitely the combat difficulties. The traversal and the critical path is exactly the same, but the big part of the game is the combat and the encounters with the enemies. So that's the main difference within the difficulties.
So when we were building this game, we knew that Star Wars is probably the most known IP in the world. So we knew there'd be a lot of people who want to play this who are hardcore gamers, like the devs working on it, but also a lot of not hardcore gamers, but people who want to play through an authentic Star Wars story. So we worked really hard to make sure that the game's accessible for just people who maybe don't play a lot of games or just don't really want to have a hard time fighting a bunch of enemies and really want that story, that authentic, real, Star Wars experience and seeing all the fun twists and turns and characters that come with that kind of thing. So with our difficulty modes and how we've designed the combat, if you're a fan of the Star Wars movies, don't play a lot of games, you can definitely still play our game on one of the easier difficulties and enjoy it and get the story and have fun.
That's the blasters. Whoops.
The challenge of guiding players through the story. We really wanted to make sure that anybody who loves Star Wars could come in and have a great time, and basically they would be able to, no matter what your familiarity was, if you were not really a Star Wars fan but you were really into playing games, there was enough there that we could bring you into the universe in a really seamless way and make sure that we have this kind of all new cast of characters, which really helps, so you don't have to have any background information. But for people who are Star Wars fans, we have this kind of rich and deep world that Lucasfilm helped us with, and basically we made it so that you see events and characters and all these kind of little things throughout the story, where if you are familiar with Star Wars, particularly if you're someone who's been keeping up through everything in the new canon, you're going to see a lot that you recognize and going to be quite excited.
Hey, we're here to free you. Not alone.
Visitation is not permitted.
If you're playing through on easier settings, we didn't want it, or harder settings, we didn't want it to feel just like hit point sponges. We just didn't want, if you're playing on harder, that the enemy has 100 more hit points than playing on easy, because that's not what lightsaber combat, that doesn't make lightsaber combat fun. So when you're playing on easy or Jedi Knight or Jedi Master or story mode, it's the aggression of the enemies that change. Harder, they're more aggressive. On easier, it's they give you more time to think through the mechanics, what you want to do. The parry window, which is our block mechanic, you have more time to parry a move, which opens up the enemy to attack. So we played with those things instead of just, oh, he does a ton more damage and it takes forever to kill him. We didn't want that. That wasn't a good experience.
For Jedi Fallen Order, the original plan was to make the controls pick up and play. So everything on the controller is mapped one-to-one. There's no swapping abilities with different buttons or having to choose what you have to do. We want to get rid of any complex inputs like pressing 2 face buttons. And we also paced out our powers and abilities very slowly, so the player gets accustomed to each button and then start to put everything together as the encounters get more difficult. The other way we made combat more accessible was using the difficulty mode. So depending on the mode that you pick, depending on your playstyle or even your mood at the time when you want to play the game. Mechanically, it'll be easier or harder. From a reaction standpoint, enemies will be faster or slower, and that we made enemies not take a lot of hit points depending on the difficulty. That doesn't change, so the experience is always the same. It's just the intensity is dialed back or pushed really far forward.
Still resisting.
If you want the hardcore experience, you play on Grandmaster, and it's challenging. It's fun if you like that kind of challenge. We built the difficulties around, it should be whatever one you choose at for your skill level, mechanic level, it should be challenging. You should die a couple times playing our games. And on Grandmaster, maybe a couple more. But the enemies are super aggressive. Your timings are really small that you can get attacks in. So it should be fun for the people that want. I used to play on Grandmaster, and now I can't anymore because we tuned it harder. So.